This podcast is brought to you by Racing Thread, Formula One clothing for literally any occasion. Their clothing features subtle, evocative, embroidered designs of your favorite F1 moments. From Ricciardo's McHorsey entrance to Kevin's first pole. From Pierre and Yuki's bromance to Inspector Seb. The moments are endless. Whether you're out to dinner with friends, watching the race at home, or cheering in the grandstands, gone are the embarrassing sponsor logos. Instead, Racing Thread is F1 clothing you're comfortable wearing anywhere. Right now, Dirty Driving listeners can get 15% off Racing Thread's entire range of t-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, and bucket hats using the code Dirty Driving. Head over to racingthread.com to shop F1 racewear for anywhere. It's chaos. It's a different type of Sunday scary. It's your newest obsession. It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to Dirty Driving. This episode is the pre-weekend episode to Monaco. It's been a very relaxing past 7 days or so, ever since the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix got canceled. Actually, I don't know if I would say relaxing, because I was in Vegas this weekend at a music festival, so I'm honestly still recovering. I don't know why I thought it was relaxing, but here we are. I apologize if my voice goes out, but we have some things to talk about before the weekend really begins with qualies and the race on Saturday and Sunday. There's been all sorts of things coming out these past couple of days, from F1 taking over the TV broadcast in Monaco to Lewis denying any rumors about him going to Ferrari by saying they can buy me on F1 23. And finally, as of this morning, we see that Mercedes has debuted new side pods. It is going to be a very interesting weekend, as, again, last weekend was canceled, where a lot of teams were expected to bring upgrades. So this weekend, we could see a completely different lineup of vehicles based on how these upgrades run in Monaco. Let's jump into the light and easy news. First up, Alonso believes he can win a race this year. It's been 10 years since his last win at the 2013 Spanish Grand Prix. He was driving for Ferrari at the time. And when asked where he potentially could win this year, he listed Monaco, Budapest, and Singapore as potentials for a win. They are the slowest speeds of the schedule. And since Aston Martin has not been very fast on the straights, but very good in the corners, we could see an Alonso win this year. McLaren released a one-off livery this week to celebrate their 60th anniversary. It will debut this weekend in Monaco and stay on the vehicle for the Spanish Grand Prix next weekend. It's a nod to McLaren's achievement of winning Motorsport's Triple Crown. Motorsport's Triple Crown, if you're not familiar with, is the three most famous races: the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indy 500, and the Le Mans 24 Hours. The car design is very interesting. It features three different sections. So in the rear, we've got the papaya color, which celebrates the maiden Indy 500 win in 1974. The center has a red and white mix, and they're calling it Sharp White Ice. And this is for Alain Prost's 1984 Monaco Grand Prix win. And then the front is all black in tribute to the 1995 Le Mans 24 Hours win, which was McLaren's very first attempt at an endurance race. I fully believe that the Golf livery was so much better. In fact, I don't think I've ever said this, but that's where I got the colors for Dirty Driving. I pulled them from that car livery. So on average, I wouldn't rank this one-off very high up on the list, but the story behind it and the pieces of the design make it way more interesting and way cooler. So that's why I wanted to share it. McLaren are also running 4 different liveries on each of the cars in the Indy 500, which is this weekend. It's on Sunday. The green flag is at 12:45 p.m. Central Time. And I did some research for you guys. It can either be watched on NBC or on Peacock, which is phenomenal because I don't have cable, but I've got Peacock. In our need to know news, I mentioned it at the beginning of this episode, but a lot of teams were expected to bring upgrades in Imola. And since the race got canceled, we will see these upgrades debut in Monaco. For Mercedes, they are taking the first update since the team acknowledged it had gotten the car wrong. So we will see a new front suspension, new bodywork, and floor updates to the Mercedes vehicles. Their biggest issue this year has been rear grip through the high-speed corners. Imola would have been a good test for this because there are no high-speed sections in Monaco, but this will allow them to still gather decent data for Spain, which they can use next weekend. Ferrari is also continuing with adding on top of the changes that were made to the car in Miami. We'll see a lot of new upper body work this weekend. Ferrari's biggest issue this year so far has been inconsistent balance through the high-speed corners. The speed into and out of slow corners has been a strength, so Monaco should see a prime Ferrari running. For AlphaTauri, they have a very relevant upgrade for Monaco. They are bringing a new floor, and their biggest issue has been weakness in the low-speed corners. Monaco has all the low-speed corners you could dream of, so we could see some nice AlphaTauri success this weekend. I'd love to see what Yuki Tsunoda can do. I'd love to see him get higher than just 10th or 11th. And hell, who knows what Nick DeVries might be able to pull out of his back pocket for this weekend. Honda is set to return to F1 in 2026, joining forces with Aston Martin. Honda left F1 at the end of 2021 after their 7 years with Red Bull that saw a championship win thanks to Max Verstappen. This will be Honda's 5th stint within F1. It's important to note that their relationship continues with Red Bull until the end of 2025. But if you recall, Red Bull is pursuing their own path with an in-house power unit division aided by their new American partner, Ford. When F1 released the 2026 engine regulations, Honda were stoked by the use of 100% sustainable fuels and the greater focus on electrical power. But Honda had to go somewhere else. In fact, they went back to Red Bull to see if they could rejoin them, but Red Bull said no since they'd already invested so much in their own in-house. So then they went dating around the paddock. They talked with McLaren and Williams, but they ultimately ended with Aston Martin, and the deal moved along pretty quickly. Until then, Mercedes will continue to partner with Aston Martin until the end of 2025, supplying their power units, gearbox, and rear suspension. Honda have no plans to supply power units to any other parties other than Aston Martin. This is so odd to me. And the reason why is because Honda dropped their partnership with Red Bull because they wanted to be done with F1. They did this in 2020, and the reasoning behind it is they wanted to divert resources elsewhere. I know that because they got the championship win, they saw the possibility of doing better in Formula One. And so I think that's the main reason that they wanted to come back. It's not just the fact that F1 sustainability measures match up Honda sustainability measures, but they're like, oh, we know what we're doing. We can do this again. And for Aston Martin, it makes complete sense that they're dropping Merck as their supplier because in order to win championships, in order to turn out a lot of championships, you really need a works team that is completely devoted to you and focused on giving you the best parts and the best quality of parts and not receive these parts from another team that is trying to beat you. In other news to keep a pulse on, F1 is to donate 1 million euros. This immediate donation will support the communities affected by the flooding in the Emilia-Romagna region. I love this. I feel like, again, they made the correct decision in canceling the race, but not only that, they're going above and beyond like F1 should, considering that's one of the homes of F1, to really give back to that community and help them through this hard period. In addition, F1 is to partner with Race Against Dementia. Race Against Dementia was founded by three-time world champion Sir Jackie Stewart. RAD, Race Against Dementia, will use the global platform of F1 to raise awareness of research into treatment and prevention of dementia while encouraging fans, drivers, and sponsors to fund research. The reasoning behind Jackie Stewart starting Race Against Dementia is because it hits very close to home. His wife, Helen, was diagnosed with it. And Jackie said that he didn't really know anything about dementia before that, and his involvement in making motor racing safer caused a lot of trouble at the time because there were a lot of people that didn't want to hear about it. And the same thing is starting to happen with dementia. But now it's totally acceptable and it's been more recognized than it is today. The latest statistics tell us that unless something is done, everyone born today, 1 in 3 of them will die with dementia. Jackie said, "We started off rad by thinking about Formula One. Problem solving in F1 is faster than any other activity that I know of, including aerospace. You know, when something goes wrong in an F1 team at any Grand Prix, it may only be a week, maximum of 2 weeks later, and it's fixed. So we've done a lot with Red Bull and McLaren, showing the rad fellows how Formula One gets problem solving done faster than anyone else." I love this partnership. Not only has Jackie Stewart contributed so much to F1, he's an absolute icon. And because of everything he's done, he deserves this partnership with F1. And I can't wait to see where this goes.
Looking to get the kiddos in your life interested in Formula One? This series includes the ABCs of Racing, which teaches concepts about racing with Red Racer as your guide. The 34-page book is full of gorgeous illustrations inspired by actual tracks and racing situations around the world. The series also includes the book All About Race Cars, a guide to Formula One race cars. Red Racer and Roxy the Engineer walk you through all the ins and outs of F1 in this 40-page book with beautiful illustrations teaching STEM facts about F1 cars. Red Racer Books is on a mission to give kids in the US and beyond a global perspective on sportsmanship, diversity, science, and technology. Right now, Dirty Driving listeners can get 20% off Red Racer Books' entire series using the code Dirty Driving. Head over to redracerbooks.com to buy the kiddos in your life, or the adults, their new favorite book.
The Monaco circuit is the shortest track on the calendar at only 3.3 kilometers per lap. In fact, there's a special rule in the rule book for Monaco that allows it to run to a total of 260 kilometers instead of the required 305 kilometers. It's a 78 lap race. It's more laps than any other Grand Prix, and it would need to be 92 laps to meet that 305 requirement. The very tight walled street track creates the hardest overtaking track with the lowest DRS effect. And it has the lowest average speed of 168 kilometers per hour, or about 104 miles per hour. One thing I wanted to talk about a little bit more than I have in previous pre-weekend episodes is strategy going into the weekend. The pit lane is very tight. We dropped to 60 kilometers per hour here. And the gap between the garages is so small that the pit stops are often slower here due to a high risk of the driver being blocked by another driver coming in and out of the pit lane. So that needs to be factored into race strategy. Qualies has often been more interesting than the race. So be sure to tune in on Saturday. It's like the best part of Monaco. And because of the minimal overtaking abilities, the race results often match those of qualifying. Teams may compromise their race setup for a faster car in quali. They also want the maximum number of softs for qualies, so they end up saving mediums and hards for the race. The first practice at most Grand Prix is actually used for testing items or parts on the car. Monaco is shit for that. There's not much data that they can gather from this circuit. So in the practice sessions, we'll see quali runs start ASAP. The second practice is usually used for tire data. In Monaco, the high fuel data is corrupted by the traffic and the yellow or red flags that may appear. So that data is not really helpful for Sunday's race strategy. Traffic rules everything in Monaco. Stopping too early to try and undercut can ruin your race. In last year's race, we had a safety car start. If you remember, it was pouring rain and the rain got heavier and heavier, so the red flag was thrown during the formation lap. We waited for about 45 minutes before we got to see a rolling start behind the safety car with Leclerc leading. In lap 1, Latifi runs into the wall at the hairpin and says that he couldn't turn the car. And then Stroll hit the barriers, and both are the first to switch to intermediates. Gasly was able to get around both Zhao and Ricciardo in amazing overtaking moves. Esteban Ocon turned into Lewis Hamilton and ended up hitting him. And then we had the huge Ferrari strategy fuck up where Charles Leclerc was told to stay out, come in, stay out. But then he came in for inters and then they put slicks on his car. So he had to take a double pit stop. In lap 23, Sergio Perez took the lead and Carlos Sainz had a wicked save. He lost the rear following Perez and saved himself. It's great to see that slide and then that recontrol. There was a red flag during the race for Mick Schumacher's huge crash in the swimming pool section. And then with 10 minutes left, because we hit the time limit, the top 4 were on top of each other. They were damn near touching each other. It ended up with Perez winning Monaco for the first time ever, with Sainz and Verstappen rounding out the podium. The first race that took place around Monaco was organized by the Automobile Club de Monaco in 1929. It has been on the calendar every year from 1955 to 2020. It was canceled due to COVID. The circuit was technically built in 1215 when the colony was formed. And like I mentioned earlier, the Monaco Grand Prix is part of the Triple Crown of motorsport with the Indy 500 and the Le Mans 24 Hour. The weather this weekend is looking a little iffy. Friday is supposed to be sunny and beautiful. Saturday forecasts vary, but most are expecting showers in the afternoon. And then for Sunday Fun Day, we have a rain probability as high as 76%. So could it be a repeat of last year? My prediction is that it will in fact downpour on Sunday. And we're going to have an Alonso Verstappen Sainz podium. I also think Charles Leclerc will do his Monaco best and take pole, but then fuck up during the race, like usual in Monaco. It's called the Monaco curse. We will just have to wait to see how this weekend plays out. Like I said, be sure to tune into qualies and then watch the race on Sunday morning. And hopefully you all have the opportunity to switch motorsports for the day and then watch the Indy 500.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dirty Driving. Until next time, stay dirty.